I'm gonna preference this by saying that there's been a lot of controversy about this trailer, and about the game's existence as a whole. But I am hyped for it, so if you're looking for somebody that isn't, you're gonna have to look somewhere else. Just want to go ahead and get that out of the way so people don't comment, "Oh, this is the biggest waste of time I've ever watched. I thought you were gonna talk about how much you hated the game and how dangerous it is." Yeah, dude, I'll acknowledge the opposing points within the video, but I don't hate it. So if you're just looking for somebody to appease you, this ain't it. Let's get right into it. So the beginning of this video, a lot of things you can see is that it looks pretty realistic. I mean, you've got this rundown building, graffiti everywhere. It looks pretty good. But something you can see that brings it away from that reality is this graffiti and that graffiti are the same. See the red here? It is the same all the way to that point. So people were saying, I saw a lot of controversy where they were like, this is just the guy with a body cam on filming a movie and pretending it's a game. You can tell that the assets are reused. I wanted to get that out of the way first because that's a big criticism I've been seeing and it's completely unfounded. The reloading is really good. You see a lot of the same graffiti again. I like the way that everything looks this realistic. If this was a horror game, this would be absolutely terrifying. And I believe there is a horror game coming out with graphics like this. Now this is slowed down, but the running speed is really fast, like realistically quick. And I have a lot of love for that too. I like the way that the recoil works whenever he fires. I've shot guns multiple times, and you can't always hold that baby steady while you're pulling the trigger, especially depending on the caliber of the bullet. Looks like a high school bathroom to me. Something I failed to point out earlier is that these faces are blurred out. It was with the last guy too. Now I'm not sure if it's blurred out because this dude shot him in the head and there's a lot of blood. If it's blurred out because on body cam, you don't need to release the identity of these people. If it's blurred out because this is an actor and you don't want to release their identity. I got a lot of questions about that. I'm not entirely sure if it's how it is in the game or if it's just how it is in the video. And it does raise that validity of where they were like, oh, it's just a movie. This right here kind of gives them reason to believe that. But again, it's definitely graphics. And it looks really good. Or at least I think it's definitely graphics. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth if he comes out later and was like, oh, it's a prank. They have an official Steam page now too, which is cool. I already have it wish listed. But that right there would have been the perfect time for a jump scare. It would have been so obvious people would have already been tensed up if it was a horror game. Now the drone crashing there confuses me. Did he shoot the drone operator? I missed it. Alright. He reloads a lot too. Realistically, you wouldn't reload this often. Like there he goes again. There's no way he fired all those bullets. Dang, that was a good shot. And I mean, if you want to nitpick the validity of walking around in the open without backup like this, you can go ahead. But I'm not going to go that far into it. Now, I don't believe going up here is the greatest decision. I don't know if we cleared the whole place, though. There's a lot of cuts. So if he did clear the bottom floor, then yeah, up here. This is when the dialogue options pop up. He yells, "Where's Oscar?" Guy falls over, explosion, it's over. Now I got some thoughts, besides what I already said. First off, somebody told me they think this is going to be a VR game, and that's why the corners look like they do, because that's a VR headset. And I mean, it wasn't announced that it's a VR game, but I mean, it does kind of look like the VR headset. Can I go back? Just like 1 second. Right there. See, that shows right there that it isn't real. That is the biggest example I've seen so far, where there's things inside of things. Like, that's not how things actually look on top of something. But it doesn't really break immersion unless you pause it and talk about it. Like, you probably wasn't gonna notice that the first time you're going through. This being an old, rundown warehouse also makes things being reused and looking out of place seem less out of place, because that's kind of the point of the warehouse. So I like that he went that route with it. But again, if he didn't clear that bottom floor, somebody should be shooting at him right now. And he called him back up, which has me curious. Like, whenever you dispatch shots fired, backup should be arriving. Somebody should be arriving. So I'm curious if he never moved, if he didn't pursue after that, if he would get backup. It's little things like that that I wish could happen. Or if you shot somebody and they were just injured, if you could call in an ambulance as well, and then they could live. If there was a way that you could do it without killing people, go full person of interest and kneecap those suckers. But it's crazy because I just never expected realism like this. For a cop game, a type of game we don't get many in the genre of. Or I do want to talk about the concerns raised for this game. Because people have said that it's too much. It makes them uncomfortable. It's kind of like you're actually shooting real people. And yeah, I mean, I see that. Like, don't get me wrong, I see it. But I think that's the point. We dehumanize cops constantly. You see an article everywhere, cop shoots and then person's name. Or they will switch it into the other direction, or they will say something like, cop shoots person's race, person's gender, person's sexuality, person's etc. All it is doing is segregating. Whether it's segregating based on class, based on differences in sexuality, based on race, based on whatever you want to put in the middle, it is segregating police and that person. Instead of saying, this person, Lieutenant yada yada yada, shot and killed, yada yada yada, person's name. Humanize both sides. It's not as simple as a cop and a perpetrator all the time. Sometimes there's dirty cops. That's the truth. There are bad apples. All it is doing is adding a bad rep to the police department and police as a whole. And I do admit that police aren't great. I think that we could get to the point where we could have no police, where police are more privatized, where you hire people to protect your property. I know that is a very libertarian mindset, but if you're not going to trust the police to do the job for you, and you want to defund them, and then you want to complain when the police don't do what they're supposed to do, nothing is being accomplished. You're just going around in circles. One breath, defund the police, we don't need them. Next breath, why didn't they respond to this crime in time? Why didn't they do this quick enough? Why weren't they here? Where were they at? Why don't they have more cars? Why don't they do this? It doesn't accomplish a thing. You either keep them and you support them, or you abolish them and we privatize our own police to police for us, to protect our property, to protect what we own and what we care about. This whole weird back and forth thing doesn't accomplish anything, and I know that is hyper political, and I know how extreme it may come off, but the majority of the controversy around this game is based on the political atmosphere following police departments. It is based on police injustices, because the people that are screaming the loudest against the game being made are the people that aren't gonna play it, are the people that decide to have a one-track mind, to have one solid opinion on every single police officer because of a few bad apples. And there may be quite a bit bad apples that we don't know about, but you can't generalize the entirety of police off the fact that some of them suck. You can't do it. I mean, you can, but it's not logical. It makes your entire argument mute, because your argument is based on opinions that are not backed up by fact. So if I'm going to talk about the controversy for a game, I have to bring that up. And I hate that I have to bring that up. And I hate that we have to bring that into a discussion about games in general. But here we are. And the realistic graphics is one of the reasons that got brought up. But the people making the jokes of, oh, so can you turn off your body cam on a routine traffic stop? What happens if you want to... Just stop. You're not helping anything. You're not contributing to the conversation. You're not actually caring about the game, the gameplay mechanics, the way the game looks, the way the game acts. You don't care about any of that. You're just trying to put your 2 cents in because you can't keep your mouth shut for 5 seconds. And it's beyond aggravating. You're just making a bigger divide over and over and over again. This is the biggest issue I actually have with the conservatives. They like talking down to video games. A lot of them do. You've seen it for years. I'm pretty sure Donald Trump is the one that decided to say that violent video games is the cause for violent action, insert here. That's not the case. Will some minds see the violence in a video game and interpret it differently? Sure. But they can see violence anywhere and interpret it the same way. I didn't hear him going after action movies, TV shows, anything like that. It is such a stupid decision using video games as a scapegoat, and politicians on both sides do it constantly. A lot of people made a lot of assumptions about my political affiliation, and I don't really align with any of them. I don't have to get boxed in and stay in that box. I'm able to think critically outside of it, and you don't have to agree with my political points. You don't have to agree with anything I've said in this rant, in this video, ever. You never have to agree with me, but gosh darn it, you're gonna respect it, because if you don't, and you try to blast me, I'm gonna have to put you on blast, and then you look stupid, and then people complain, and they're like, oh, you're just punching down. No, you punched, I punched back. That's equality. You wanna try to be in the right, you gotta be ready to handle the left. Sorry, that was a rant. I just got so triggered. On my Earthspark video, there was a ton of death threats. And things have been pretty rough since then. I've gotten emails, I've gotten people figuring out my location, sending me pictures of like weapons that they're gonna use against me. So trust me when I tell you, this is my opinion, and I stand by it. Regardless of what the rest of the world thinks or what happens from now to the future, right here, based on this trailer, based on what I know, this is what I feel and this is how I'm going to feel. And if you want to bring politics into the conversation, then be prepared when I do the same. I brought mine in. If you'd like to put your 10 cents down in the comments, now the door is open. Go ahead and do it. You could have done it anyway, but I'm going to respond or I'm going to ignore you. I mean, that's totally up to me, but there's a high chance that I'll respond. But if you're just being completely hateful without any points to make, you should probably take note that if you can't have a real conversation, then there's not going to be much back and forth. The biggest issue I have with people saying this makes them uncomfortable, so it shouldn't be made, is the fact that if this makes you uncomfortable, it's making you think, it's making you feel immersed, and that is the entire point of some games, the immersion, taking you from your world and putting you in another. The issue that could become, or the issue that could arise from graphics like this though, is it feels like it's taking you from your world and keeping you in your world, and you're not really getting immersed in another. This could be like going on and watching the news while sitting in your house, and that kind of feel could be icky, and I totally acknowledge that. But as somebody who has wanted a cop game for years, I am beyond hyped. Will I be able to afford it when it comes out? I have no idea. Life is rough. That being said, I really hope that I can. This is the first time I've seen a game with this amount of graphical fidelity, and the first time I've seen a police simulator or be made in a realistic point of view like this, to the point that you're still having fun. Or the police simulator on Steam doesn't seem fun. I don't know, I've never played it. But in the gameplay I've seen, it's a lot of tickets, a lot of traffic stops, a lot of jaywalking, a lot of drunk people on the street, and it always just feels menial. It's too realistic. This, on the other hand, keeps it exciting. It keeps it grounded. I mean, this guy wasn't mowing down groups of enemies with a pistol like they're nothing, but it keeps it exciting. I understand the controversy, but I also believe that it's a good thing. It is a good thing for a game like this to be made, so that we can test the waters to see how realistic graphics can be before it feels like we're no longer being immersed in another world, where it feels like we're no longer being able to walk away from our problems and play video games. Because we need to test those waters to see how far out we can really go. It's another reason why I'm kind of interested in what would happen if a YouTuber actually got sued. That's what this game is going to do. It is going to set a precedent that needs set. And then the next game will come out, and it'll set a new one. And then the next game will come out, and then we'll finally find, eventually, when it becomes too far. Or, if it ever will, If you listen to me rant about this for however long you have, let's see how many of you are here. Oh, if all 6 of you have made it to the end, yeah, thank you. I'm gonna start streaming on Twitch once I get all that sorted out, or I'm gonna hopefully do so. The internet is really awful here and Twitch doesn't seem to like that. But seriously, thank you for tuning in. It means a lot, and I'm glad to see that some of you want to. For more news, reviews, and whatever we choose on all things nerd, subscribe, and above all else, have a great day. Thank you.